Welcome to today's webinar on how outsourcing can support your business and your post-COVID-19 recovery plan. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Nick Ogden and I'm the country manager of this amazing business, Beepo. I'm based here in the Philippines, and with me I have one of our most senior client experience managers, Adrian Guevara. So good morning, Adrian.
Good morning, Nick, and good morning to all the attendees.
Now, guys, one of the things we called this meeting today, or we've set this webinar, is that we wanted to share our insights into what we've seen work really well through this, I guess, no secret, the most challenging times that certainly our business has ever been through, and certainly our clients have had to face a multitude of challenges. One of the things we've seen, though, is a really clear alignment of businesses that have done this really, really well and have managed to take advantage of opportunity throughout the challenges that COVID-19 has thrown up. And equal to that, I guess, businesses that haven't been able to do that. Now, doing some analysis over the last 5 months, certainly the most challenging time that Beepo as a business has ever been through, we've really been able to clearly define how well we've been able to get through this challenge. Now, March in particular was the most challenging time that we've been through as the Philippines entered into lockdown, and indeed Australia was heading into lockdown where a majority of our clients are based. Mm-hmm. March was really, really tough for us. It was the most challenging month this business has ever been through, but we always took an approach from the beginning that we were going to take a react, recover, respond, and then optimize opportunity beyond that. And we've really been able to make that come to fruition by responding to the challenges in March, really steadying the ship throughout April, but then taking advantage of the opportunities in May, June, July, and as we head into August. And we wanted to share those insights of our success through this period, but also our clients' success as well, and how you can leverage an offshore talent and offshore relationship to really help you with your recovery beyond COVID-19. I've asked Adrian Guevara to join us to add some Filipino perspective to this conversation, but also to answer any direct questions. So Q&A is an important part of this webinar. It always makes the flow go. So please, guys, feel free to chat your questions through live as they come through, and we'll try and get to them during this webinar. If we don't, of course, more than happy to answer any questions or queries offline. Simply shoot me an email post the webinar. We will be making this webinar recording available to everyone that's logged on post the webinar this morning. So let's crack on, Adrian.
All right.
Fantastic. Yeah. So Adrian, I might just quickly start with you sharing your professional background and your career here at Beepo, just to give the perspective for our audience.
All right, no worries. Thanks, Nick. So so a bit of an introduction about myself. So I had a bachelor's degree in accountancy, but spent most of my career in the outsourcing industry. I started in 1999. So, I always tell people I started very young, like 8 years old. So just to hide my age. But the first 10 years of my career in the industry, I've worked with America Online, or AOL. It's really one of the first contact centers established here in the Philippines. Then in 2014, I joined Beepo. Currently, I'm the head of its real estate team. So we now work with various real estate agencies and offices spread across Australia and New Zealand.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you, Adrian. Now, guys, we've set an agenda here, and really we wanted to talk very specifically about the areas of your business where we might be able to help. Of course, COVID-19 has forced businesses to look at their operations in a multitude of ways. There's so many things in business that are out of your control, but of course, the number one thing that is in your control as a business owner or a business leader is your costs. Your expenses, and I think we've all been forced, mostly by our accountants, to focus on our expenditure during this period to make sure we're in the best position possible to take advantage on the other side. Now, of course, one of our biggest expenses, of course, is staffing and salary. So, of course, accessing amazing talent over here in the Philippines through outsourcing can cut that cost down significantly. Now, if we take the cost of a salary one to one, Australian salary, and compare that to what talent available here in the Philippines, you're looking at a saving of at least a third. So an equal to equal staff member here in the Philippines is only going to cost your business a third of the cost of an Australian or a local staff member. Now, of course, cost saving is only one piece of the puzzle, because there's also a significant upside when it comes to productivity as well. Now, key learnings that we've taken out of COVID during this period is momentum and mindset. I think there's been so many challenges thrown up by COVID-19, but one of the things that's kept us successful here at Beepo through this period is that we've never taken our eyes off opportunity. So we want to talk a little bit about positive mindset and the importance of that coming from the top, and the importance of blending technology with your staffing requirements back in your businesses, and how to tie those pieces of the puzzle together and really maximize the tools that you're using in your business. Of course, Q&A is opened up at the end, but please, once again, feel free to chat your questions through at any time. Let's crack on. Now, what can outsourcing offer your business? Now, Adrian mentioned, the start of his career with AOL, and of course, the outsourcing industry has changed significantly in the last 10 years, but more importantly, in the last three to 5 years, where we've seen the industry evolve. And now the industry's evolved based on the needs of the businesses back in Australia, America, or around the world. But it's also changed because of the talent and the level of talent that's available. So when Adrian started in America Online, Adrian, you came out with an accountancy degree, but could you share your role with AOL in the early days?
Yeah, well, when I started with America Online, I started as a technical email support. So we're responsible in responding to the customers' queries through emails. And I think you're also correct in terms of the changes within the industry. I think it's been consistent and remarkable, the growth through the years. In the late 90s and early 2000s, most of the roles were predominantly call center jobs. That meant, either you're in customer service, technical support, or you're doing sales pitches over the phone. But I think different businesses in all over parts of the world have seen that we have vast pool of talents here in the Philippines. So they started outsourcing the more technical side of their businesses. Like, we have a lot of programmers, designers, software engineers, animators. And you're correct. I think the last 3 to 5 years, we've seen growth, especially on the offshore staff listing. Businesses tapping into, having professionals handle data entry, virtual assistants, marketing, or even, content writing. That's the reason why there's such a boom in that specific side of the industry. But more and more businesses also looking at outsourcing some of the functions of their business, like the admin and support, finance function, or accounting and HR. But you're also correct. I've also personally seen the talent in the industry has changed. I think we're now seeing a more multi-skilled workforce who could, adapt to changes, not only in the business, but also in the technology that we have to work with.
I think the biggest change that we've seen in the last 3 years in particular is, traditionally, if you were going to access an offshore team, let's take finance as an example. If you have a business in finance, previously, if you wanted to take on somebody to work in your loan processing as an example, we would provide talent with the necessary skills and educational requirements, but not necessarily specific skills in your particular tool. You might be using Prime or Mercury, you know, that it would be up to you as a business leader or somebody in your team to train up those skills. Now the difference now is that we see so much talent that's had exposure to these tools in, you know, over the last 3 years, that
Yep.
the opportunity now to access talent that already has the experience, already has the training in your specific software or your specific tools, is so much greater now. So particularly in finance, in real estate, in accounting,
Yeah.
and in the more technical roles, now you can be very specific in the talent that you want to add to your business. So you can approach this by almost a direct comparison of what talent's available locally, you know, and run a recruitment strategy side by side in the Philippines at the same time, and compare the talent as they come out and are presented to you by, you know, by us or by your internal recruitment teams. Now running lean is so important, and then Beepo as a business is always run incredibly lean. So leading up to COVID, when we had to make some more decisions about cutting costs, it was actually quite challenging. One of the things it forced us to do, though, was to focus on the tools that we already had in our business, and how we most effectively get the use out of those tools. We made sure we had the right people in the right roles, doing the right stuff, and most importantly, at the right price as well. And now if I think about the core of what we do here at Beepo, is help getting that piece of the puzzle right. Now, there's a lot of different layers to that, because right people in the right roles is really important, making that assessment, but also making sure those people are doing the right stuff. What we see a lot is some really high-level staff members across businesses, you know, getting bogged down in stuff that's not their strengths, is not adding value to the business, but just has to be done. And a great opportunity to really assess individual roles within your business and figure out the pieces that you can take away. Now, I work with an EA here in the Philippines, Rachel, and I could not live without her. She does. Some would say she does almost everything for me, but that's not true, guys. But you know, now that I've had Rachel, there's no way I could live without her. But she manages my calendar. She books my travel, at least when we were allowed to travel. She keeps me accountable to my work in progress meetings with my direct reports. So she takes the minutes of every meeting. She holds me accountable to all the actions that I've agreed to out of my meetings, and we just have a really efficient working dynamic, to the point, as I said, where I couldn't live without her. I think everybody needs a Rachel, if you ask me. So if you're thinking of an EA in your business and you've never taken the time to actually, you know, it's hard to justify sometimes because of cost, please reach out to us and let us help, because an offshore EA can be one of the best decisions that you'll ever make.
Yep.
Now we've got a question that's been chatted in, a couple of questions. I might try and answer these live. Poignantly, what can an offshore EA help me with? I've covered up on that one. But how can I use an offshore staff member to manage my sales team's productivity? I think this is a great question. It's something that we do here at Beepo, and I think this is where a sales administration support. So traditionally, I think people have always looked offshore for lead generation, you know, for outbound lead generation. Whilst this can be effective still if it's managed properly, I still think, and Adrian, you can probably back me up here in the real estate space, it's one that you can run in short stints, and as long as you've got really good data. We've had great success in lead generation, but I feel if the better fit in the sales department is actually to have an administrative support to help your sales team with the efficiency in the way they operate through their processes. So we have a sales administration staff member here, Christine Panetta. And once again, it's about accountability and holding your sales team people accountable to process. and their activity in the CRM system. I mean, traditionally, salespeople are fast-paced, very good with the face-to-face interaction and the selling, but not necessarily that good with operating through the CRM system, recording the data as required. And as business owners, we need that data. It's absolute gold. But also can just help you maximize your opportunity. We see this very much in finance and broking, because everybody knows what best practices look like in terms of maximizing the opportunities that are in their CRM, but not necessarily taking advantage of timelines. A really good sales administrator working to a really clearly defined process and set of goals can really provide that link to maximize your salespeople's activity. More than happy to once again to have a chat offline about how we use our CRM system, HubSpot, to tie our salespeople together to our processes, to our marketing team, and the results beyond that. So the leaner resourcing strategy, we've skipped ahead. Of course, running your business as lean as possible now is more important than ever. But it really does free up the cash to be able to take advantage of other opportunities. You know, we've made some savings during this period of COVID that we've had to make, but we've reinvested that. We've reinvested that in our marketing and our marketing strategy, and consequently, we've seen a huge uplift in the activity on our website, and consequently lead generation as well. Of course, the Australian government has done an incredible job of keeping things on track back in Australia, and unfortunately, we're facing more challenges again with a second wave of COVID. But really has highlighted how important it is for business owners to maximize opportunities within their business, and once again run as lean as they possibly can to be in the best position to take advantage of any opportunities going forward. Because in a competitive marketplace, you need to be competitive on cost as well, and if we're not competing on our expenses, it makes it very difficult for us to compete in the marketplace as well. Now, most of us have had to work through our work from home. You can see behind Adrian there, it's quite a lonely looking office, but we've had to, overnight we had to move 420 staff here at Beepo to a work from home environment, and we've learned a lot throughout that process. One thing I'm really thankful for is that we invested in technology some time ago. We use a productivity portal, for example, to hold our teams accountable to their timekeeping, and I might get Adrian a little later on to share how we use that tool to provide productivity and accountability reporting back to our clients. But making those decisions back then has now made it so much easier for us and our teams to manage our staff remotely. One of the things we've seen, we haven't seen any drop in productivity from moving out of our office to a work from home environment. We haven't seen any drop in satisfaction either. In fact, we've seen an uplift in our. We've actually seen a big jump in our NPS, both our client NPS and also our employee opinion survey also saw a big jump as well. So we're super proud of the job that we've done in the last 6 months to see an increase, even working under such challenging circumstances. I'd ask you though to have a think about how you're monitoring the productivity of your teams locally, and if you have a really good system in place to do that. Because if you've got people working remotely and you're not getting the results, it could come down to just the way that you're managing those teams, or the tools that you're using to hold that accountability, and of course measure your results. Adrian, could you share with the audience how we're currently managing our teams remotely, and maybe the structure of our leadership group to assist with that?
Yep, sure. Here in Beepo, we have what we call dedicated team leaders. So each of our team members work with a dedicated team leader. So the team leaders are really the main point of contact for their day-to-day matters or any challenges that they might have. So in real estate, I have four amazing team leaders, very tenured. So they've been with us for, I think most of them about more than 2 years. Um, so for me, holding people accountable, especially while they're working from home, it really has two critical pieces. I think for the first piece, which is what we have in Beeple, is really the company culture. I think it's very important because what we do here when we onboard a new staff, we want to make sure that all the expectations from them for the role, from their clients, are set. I think that's a critical piece because that helps them to be accountable, to take ownership. Also, we want to create an environment that encourage open communication, especially now more than ever. We want them to communicate to their team leaders regarding if the progress of their work, if there are any challenges, if there, for example, there's a power interruption, those things, very important. I think first part is the company culture piece. The second part, you mentioned the technology. So we have what we call the BPO productivity portal. So a staff member before when they start their shift, they log into the portal. What the portal does, it allows us to track the tasks that they've completed. But not only that, it also gives us information like the amount of time they've spent on certain tasks, which really helps us to gauge not only the capacity of the team members, but the scalability of the role. Like for example, if there's still room to grow, you can now involve your staff to a different or another task. We're seeing that. So the leadership team gets a copy of that. We can view that daily. There's a weekly report. There's a monthly report that the particular tool generates.
Yeah, it's been a great addition to our product suite here at Beepo, and I guess it's really been highlighted the value of that tool. It's bugh highlighted many times actually through since we implemented BPP, but certainly when staff are working from home, it's really allowed us to show what value the offshore team's actually bringing to the table. I mean, you can't manage what you can't measure. We often say that as a team here internally, but we measure everything. We measure the productivity of our Australian sales team. We measure the productivity of each individual staff member. We monitor what people are spending their time on through the web and app portal of that tool. So if somebody is spending a lot of time on social media, there's no hiding from that. And if somebody's in a role where they aren't required to use a Facebook or an Instagram or whatever, it's going to be highlighted on that tool and completely transparent back to the client in Australia. Excellent, Adrian. Thank you. Why is technology so important? I think this is a no-brainer for us all, but I think interestingly, talking to some of our technology clients who, and their business is all about assisting clients with implementing strategy in technology. It's amazing how many projects that have perhaps been on the back burner for a long time all of a sudden have been implemented in really quick time. Of course, for us and working with offshore teams, if you have a great technology solution in place, then of course that's great for us. If you're using cloud-based software and platforms, then all the better. Your tech stack has to be up to date. Once again, it's just business 101. If you're not using your technology to its full potential, you're also behind the 8 ball as well. And if you're not, your competitors are. It's as simple as that. Now, I might relate this once again back to a tool that we use here at Beepo. Our business is essentially a recruitment business, no different. We're a recruitment business for offshore staff, and of course, then we help manage and support your teams. But the first piece of our process, and I guess one of the most important parts, is the recruitment part. We use a tool. Called Job Adder, which is an applicant tracking system. And that allows us to live on both sides of the water and a central point of truth for everybody to access information live. So if a client rings me and asks me, well, where their recruitment process is up to, I simply can look into JobAdder, tell them exactly where their recruitment's up to, how many people have reached what stage of our recruitment process. I can pull candidate profiles out of that system and present them live. Now, it took us a long time to get the efficiency out of using that tool, and it's not cheap. Like all software solutions, they tend to be quite expensive. The big key to the puzzle, though, to getting the efficiency out of that tool was enforcing from the top how that tool was going to be used. So stopping behaviour, actually, it was a behaviour change that we had to enforce, mostly with our Australian team, if I'm honest. But we have this great central point of truth, but if people aren't using it and still relying on somebody else in the organisation to provide them information, we don't get the efficiency out of the tool. So we made one simple change, and that was if somebody asks you for information that they can find themselves in JobAdder, the only answer you give is look in JobAdder. Now, making that one change was the key to getting the efficiency out of what is actually quite an expensive tool for us here at Beepo, and consequently quite some months down the track now, we're really starting to see a competitive edge by the clever use of what is a really great tool. So maximize the use of your CRM systems. I mentioned finance, set out the timelines in your CRM for contact. We know that people buy a house and they potentially buy a car at a set time frame after that. Make sure your CRM system is set up for those reminders for your sales team. And once again, really great use of a sales administrator to implement that type of strategy. Momentum. So I spoke about momentum, and this also leads into to the next part of our slide of mindset that this really, really closely linked. Now, as I said in the beginning of COVID-19 and the lockdowns, the challenges were coming at us thick and fast. But one thing I kept reinforcing to our team is that we've got all of these challenges, but we're also going to get opportunity. So whilst we were dealing with the challenges, we never took our eyes off opportunity. We continued to drive forward all the way through this pandemic, and we continue to do so now. And consequently, we're really starting to see some opportunities that potentially this business never would have been able to take advantage of before, because we've driven momentum forward all the way through this process. It's been the most important piece of our puzzle, is to continue to drive the top of our funnel. Incredibly, our marketing department has done an incredible job during this period. In July, we had over 12,000 sessions on our website. It's a massive record for us, but that's because we've dedicated the resource to that space to continue to drive Beepo forward, and really paying dividends now in June, July and August. The value of a positive mindset, and as business leaders, this is on us. It's driven from the top. You cannot let any negativity creep into your business mindset at any time. Challenges are going to come thick and fast through this period, and we're a long way from being through it completely. But maintaining a positive mindset as a business leader is absolutely imperative, and continuing to drive that down from the top throughout your leadership group, and then consequently your line staff, salespeople in particular. If you've got salespeople in there with a negative mindset about the environment that they're operating under, there's no way that they're going to be able to close deals. It's imperative that you drive a positive mindset, particularly with client-facing staff. And I think above everything else, this is something that we've done incredibly well at Beepo. And one of the biggest challenges for us, in keeping a positive mindset, of course, there's so many challenges, and mental health, of course, is a big issue here. But staff engagement is a really key component of what we do here as a business, Beepo. And Adrian, I might get you to share the Filipino perspective when it comes to staff engagement, and maybe start with the family dynamic first of all, and relate it back to that, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. Well, staff engagement, very important, especially in the outsourcing industry. I think it stems to from the Filipino culture is very family oriented or very family centric. I think in most of the time we try to bring that into our workplace as well. So most companies would explore how to create family-centric type of environment in which it's one of the most effective ways is through staff engagements. A lot of team building activities, and we've seen great results out of that. Not only increased productivity, but I think helping us retain staff and talent in the organization. But I think the COVID-19 situation, most of us are working from home. I think we're seeing the importance of staff engagement activities now more than ever.
Absolutely.
Because heaps of us are. When you work from home, sometimes you're by yourself, you're in your room,
Yeah.
so you feel very, very isolated at times.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
staff engagement is the best ways to help team members feel that they're still connected. They're still connected with
Absolutely.
their colleagues.
It's
Also, it's one
super
of the best ways. Yep,
super
really.
important. So important too to make sure that the staff engagement activity is actually relevant.
Yep.
Now, we mentioned before about you can't manage what you can't measure, and I briefly touched on the use of NPS and measuring client satisfaction, but also staff satisfaction as well. Now, we've run a number of surveys during COVID-19, and particularly with our work from home staff, to see where they need the support from us as a business. And we sent out an Are You Okay survey just to check in on particularly mental health of our teams working remotely. And I think it was one of the best things we've done during this period, because we got a really clear picture as to where our team needs support from a mental health point of view. And so we ran a mental health webinar, and I might get you to share, Adrian, how that was received by our teams.
There were a lot of positive feedback from that webinar. I think not only that it focused the overall wellness, but the different ways on how you could actually not only help a family member or a team member, but yourself if you are in that situation. I think the professional who shared those tips shared things that can be done, that are achievable. So sometimes you share, you go into these webinars and there are a lot of medical terms being used that are not really digestible to some of the listeners. But I think we did a very good job in focusing to what our staff are going through right now and what are the specific steps that they can do, we can do to help them out. So it was really a lot of positive feedback out of the health and wellness webinar that we've conducted.
Yeah, it was a great thing we did. We had really good engagement. We had over 260 staff attend that, and it was also well supported by our Australian clients as well. They gave us permission to spend an hour and to give that hour of time to dedicated to that webinar, because they could see the importance of it. But of course, staff engagement is not just about the serious side. There's also some fun and games to it too, Adrian. So maybe you can share how we've managed to keep our fun and games part going during COVID-19.
Yeah, well, because staff engagement is such a critical piece in what we do in BPO. So we did not let COVID-19 or the work from home setup that we all have right now, or most of us have right now, to prevent us from still doing staff engagement. We've run different, what we call them now, Zoom games. So and these are facilitated by our very own staff. So I think the last one that we did was a Zoom BPO sing game, where I know you had to give us a rendition of one of your favorite songs there. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just really one of those, and the participants, yeah, again, getting feedback from my team, they appreciate that, because it brings somewhat, you know, them back to a bit of the normal
Yeah.
that we do. So even though it's through Zoom, I think you still get connected with with your colleagues. So it's really a great initiative.
Yeah, we one of our, we do a really deep analysis of our employee opinion surveys. We do a really deep dive analysis on our NPS from a client perspective as well, to really drill down on the areas that, of areas of the business where we need to improve, or where we can improve. One of the things that came out, not so much in the last survey that we did, but the one previous to that, was that our staff just genuinely want to know that we care, and the only way we can do that is to provide the relevant levels of opportunity, the relevant levels of support, and also the right levels of staff engagement that are actually things that they're interested in, actually engagement activity that they want to do. It's hard for me to come up with those activities, of course. So we actually have a team at BPO at the staff level. They're client engaged staff predominantly. We call them the B Force, the B Force team. And that B Force team is actually tasked with coming up with the staff engagement activity, and then the support of our marketing team and some finance as well is put behind it by a leadership team. But ultimately, all of those activities are run by our amazing talent that we have here at BPO. Now, guys, that just about wraps up today, and I know we've run we've run just a little bit over, but if anybody's got any questions, please feel free to chat them through now. My name's Nick Ogden. I'm also available at any time post this webinar. Please feel free to reach out to me on email, or indeed our National Sales Manager, Gary Culverhouse, who's based in Brisbane, Australia, and available on the end of a mobile telephone or email. We'd love to hear your questions, guys. We'd love to be able to help and support your COVID recovery plan on the other side of this challenge. So thanks again for your time. Keep your heads up, and we'll all get through this and come out stronger. Thanks again, Adrian. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, Nick. Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.